Walters is open during the week from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. and open until 3 a.m. on the weekends, making Walters a great spot to watch the Olympics this month in Paris.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a drive, left center field, well struck. Back on this one, Ciani to the warning track, at the wall, he leaps, he can't get it, it is gone! It just clears in the first row of the Brewhouse red seats. Luis Garcia's 10th homer of the season makes it 5-0 Nationals.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a drive, deep right center field. Young back, warning track at the wall, and it is gone. A game-tying home run for Wilson Contreras. It is his 8th home run of the year and 16th run batted in. It's the Cardinals 5 and the Nationals 5. Each team with 6 runs and 14 hits and no errors. Floro kicks, delivers the pitch, swing and a miss, and it gets away from Adams. And here comes Wynn to score, and Contreras is safe at first. And the Cardinals lead 7-6 on a swing and miss strike 3.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Saturday, July 6, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nats on Friday evening for a third time in 5 games on the team's current 8-game homestand played an extra inning game, and the Nats for a third time in 5 games lost in extra innings. A 7-6 11-inning loss to the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park in Game 1 of a 4-game series. The Nats in this game blew a 5-0 fourth-inning lead. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by the DC Grays. DC Grays Baseball, an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. The Grays' 2024 season now is underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, visit DCGrays.com. You look at the Nats and Cardinals now in this regular season. The Nats are 41-47 with a run differential of -20. The Cardinals are 46-41 with a run differential of -36. The Nats' actual record is right in line with the team's expected record, which is 42-46. But the Cardinals' actual record is 7 games better than the team's expected record, which is just 39-48. How are the Cardinals 46-41 with a run differential of -36? Well, we should perhaps look to the little things, which of course have been preached by Nats manager Davey Martinez for years. The Nats in this game on Friday evening did not do the little things. 2 glaring base running blunders, a run-scoring pass ball. You combine all of that with Hunter Harvey struggling again, and then Kyle Finnegan giving up a game-tying homer in the top of the 9th. And Mark, you have this loss, one of the tougher Nationals losses so far this season.
Yeah, I think so, and I think because it comes on the heels of having just lost 2 extra inning games earlier in the week to begin the homestand. And this one felt similar in a lot of ways, but I think even worse in some ways. You're up 5-0 and can't sustain anything offensively. Let them creep back in. You have a bullpen completely overtaxed at this point, really working overtime, and you're seeing the effects of that all come together. And in spite of all that, they still have a chance and probably should have won the game if they just execute 1 or 2 things in critical moments. And it's not even just at the plate. It's at the plate. It's in the field. It's on the bases. It's on the mound. All of that, it just feels like they're kind of finding ways to lose games here lately. And this one, I think, topped the list because there were so many things that if they just do one of them right, they probably win the game, and instead they end up suffering a loss that is going to have ramifications beyond this game because, once again, we're talking about a bullpen that's probably going to have a bunch of guys unavailable the following day because of how much they've had to pitch here lately.
This run has been brutal. 3 extra inning games in 5 games. You're in the midst of the stretch of 17 consecutive days without an off day until the All-Star break. It was hot as you know what on Friday in the Washington, D.C. area, so anything that you did in a baseball game felt like twice as difficult because of just how brutal the heat and humidity were. And yeah, I mean, we are seeing cracks in this Nats bullpen to be sure, and, you know, that's to be expected with how much this unit is being leaned on. 5 Nats relievers on Friday evening combined to allow 4 runs, 2 earned in 6 innings. Robert Garcia, scoreless top of the 6th. Derek Law, top of the 7th. Faced 4 batters, got 2 outs. Then Hunter Harvey came into the game. He ultimately allowed 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. Now, his outing began with a terrific out. Harvey came into the game top of the 7th, runners on 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs. Nats up 5-3. Harvey, on the very first pitch that he threw, induced a ground out by the Cardinals cleanup batter Paul Goldschmidt for the 3rd out. But Harvey in the top of the 8th allowed a run to cut the Nats lead to 5-4. So this now makes for 5 of Harvey's last 7 appearances, featuring him allowing at least 1 run. And then Kyle Finnegan blew the save chance in the top of the 9th. He has been so good this season, but Finnegan in the top of the 9th gave up a 1-out game-tying opposite field solo homer by Wilson Contreras to right center field to tie the game at 5, despite Finnegan having had Contreras down in the count at 1.12. The homer going a projected 407 feet per Statcast. And then we saw Dylan Floro. He allowed 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 2 innings. Top of the 10th, allowed a run, which was unearned. He gave up a leadoff first pitch opposite field RBI single by Nolan Gorman into left center field for a 6-5 Cardinals lead. And then what ultimately was the game-winning run came on what was a pass ball on Riley Adams, who came into the game off Keibert Ruiz having been pinch run for. More on that in a bit. But Adams, that was a pass ball. That, to me, was not a strikeout wild pitch. That was a strikeout pass ball, and it proved to be good for that 7th and final Cardinals run.
It almost felt like an appropriate way for this game to end, as ugly as that was. I've watched the replay like 5 times. I still can't quite figure out how he doesn't catch the pitch. I kept thinking, was it foul tipped? Did it bounce off something else? And Riley himself said, no, he just didn't catch it. And boy, oh boy, for a guy just called back up from AAA, who, if you remember, in his final game before he was demoted a month ago in Cleveland, had a bad misplay on a wild pitch that cost them. This was the last thing that he could have afforded to do, and you could tell he was really feeling it on this one. He was pretty crushed about that and the fact that it cost them the game. But I don't know. It's like I said, it's almost like they're finding ways to lose right now. That's a bad thing. You don't ever want that from any team, certainly not a team that you feel like is starting to turn a corner and play better baseball. You just cannot afford to make stupid mistakes like that. And that's what it was. I get maybe the pitch had some movement on it. Maybe the swing fooled him, whatever it is. But you can't just drop a strike 3 swinging strike that's not in the dirt. It's right there. You drop it, and it ends up costing you the game.
It was bad for sure. We see Hunter Harvey struggle again. We don't know exactly what's happening with him, but he has been used a lot, and it feels like that usage is starting to catch up to him. There was a confidence that you had with Harvey when he would come into a game, he would get the job done. You don't have that confidence right now with what's going on with him. And then with Kyle Finnegan, look, he's had an excellent season, no doubt. I'm certainly not going to hammer him for blowing this save chance. But if there is a nit to pick with him, he has given up some home runs this season. Kyle Finnegan has given up the most home runs among all Nationals relievers in this regular season. 6 home runs allowed over 37 and a third innings. It's an odd deal because you look at his statistical profile, everything else looks so good. The ERA, the whip, he struck guys out at a decent rate, not spectacular, but like he's generated strikeouts. But he has given up some homers, and he obviously gave up a big one on Friday evening.
Yeah, I think aside from that one wild game in Colorado where he gave up a string of hits and then the pitch clock violation, I think pretty much everything else he's given up this year has been because of home runs. They have not been sustained rallies. Sometimes the home runs haven't been costly because, he's up 3 runs and just gives up a solo shot to lead off the inning or even a non-save situation. But I think 3 of the 4 blown saves now have been on home runs, if I remember right. And this is pretty remarkable. He had only given up 1 run at home this season prior to this game. 17 innings pitched at Nationals Park, only 1 run allowed. This was his first blown save at home. So he's really been lights out when pitching at Nats Park. And in this case, it really was just one bad pitch, and he admitted it, just a fastball that leaked over the heart of the plate. He wanted it in. It didn't go there, but it is a little troubling when you make a mistake and it's automatically turning into a home run. It's not a single. It's not a double. And the thing is, across the board, this team, the 2 things the pitching staff has done so well to improve this year, cutting down on walks and cutting down on home runs. And in Finnegan's case, the home run still is a problem, really the only problem he's had this year.
Well, if you're Davey Martinez, you're certainly not going to say this, nor should you say this, but I bet he's thinking this. if the Nats are going to lose moving forward before the All-Star break, make the losses like 6-1 losses. The Nats cannot take on more of these extra inning games, these super tight games. The bullpen is being drained in terms of, energy, and these guys are being worked so much. If the Nats, you want to win, obviously, but if you're going to lose, I think at this point, you're almost better off with a blowout loss or two as compared to being in another one of these super tight, ultra stressful games. I don't know how much more of this the bullpen can take, to be honest with you.
I agree. I mean, the shame of this is that they essentially all had the day off Thursday. They only needed one guy, Derek Law, in the ninth inning, thanks to Jake Irvin. And yet one day later, they're right back where they started because it was another close game. They had to use all the top guys, and it went extras. So you ended up, with 6 innings out of your bullpen in this game. So yeah, if you're going to lose, you think you would rather have a blowout. But here's the flip side of the equation. If you're going to take a 5-0 lead, how about don't need your closer before the end of the night? How about keep piling on, adding to that lead, and maybe somebody else can finish it off for you so you don't have to go to your top 2 guys when they have been used a lot. So there's a lot of things. I mean, in some respects, the fact they play a close game every night is good. It's a good sign of progress. But it is really taking its toll on the bullpen, especially during this stretch where they just had a 3-city, 3-time zone road trip. And now you're in the middle of 17 straight days leading into the All-Star break. It's all happening at the worst possible time. It feels like they just need to hang on for dear life to get to the All-Star break. The problem is they still have 8 games to go with no off days until then. And we know how awful the weather has been. That's got to take a toll as well. We may get to the point on Saturday, we'll see how it plays out, or Sunday, whenever it is, that he just has to say, these guys are all get the night off. It's Tanner Rainey, Jordan Weems, and Jacob Barnes, no matter the score. And if we lose the game, so be it. But everybody needs to take the day off.
This episode of Nats Chat is brought to you by DC Grays Baseball. DC Grays Baseball is an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of DC. Inspired by the great Grays team of the Negro Leagues, who played many championship seasons in Washington, with stars like Josh Gibson and Buck Leonard, the DC Grays have developed their MVP program. It gives boys and girls in underserved parts of DC the same opportunity to pursue their baseball and softball dreams as do kids from more affluent parts of the DMV. The Grays provide expert coaching, uniforms, equipment, and tournament travel free of charge. A donation of $100 will help a child in DC to participate in the Grays MVP program. The Grays also field a team in the Cal Ripken Summer Collegiate Baseball League. Their 2024 season is now underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, go to dcgrays.com.
Sanchez kicks high and fires, swinging a blast deep to left field. Back this one goes. Rode into the fence. You can't forget it. A home run. Dylan Cruz gets the wings on the scoreboard with his first innovative field home run. It's 3-1 Buffalo.
So runners second and third, 1 out. C.J. Abrams the batter. Arenado in onto the grass at third, and the pitch swung on, line to right field. Moving back on it is Carlson. It's over his head and one hop off the wall. Senzel scores. Rounding third is Young. He will score. And in at second with a double is C.J. Abrams. And that gives the Nationals a 4-0 lead here in the bottom of the second inning.
Well, it was an odd deal with the Nats offense in this 7-6 11-inning loss to the Cardinals on Friday evening because there were things to like. The Nats scored 5 runs over the first 3 innings, finished the game with 6 runs, 14 hits, 4 walks. The Nats went 4 for 16 with runners in scoring position. You hear all of that and you say, okay, the offense did its part. And yet, after putting up 5 runs over the first 3 innings, the Nats scored a mere 1 run the rest of the game, and there were multiple base running blunders that stick with you with this game turning out to be a Nationals loss. We start with Jesse Winker, who overall had a very nice game. Jesse Winker is the Nats starting designated hitter and number 4 batter, 2 for 5 with an RBI double and another double. Winker in a Nats 2-run first, a 2-out RBI double to the right field corner for a 1-0 Nats lead. And then Winker in the bottom of the 8th, a leadoff first pitch opposite field double to the left center field gap. So leadoff man is on second, nobody out. That is a prime run scoring opportunity. But Jesse Winker ended up getting tagged out and by a mile in attempting to advance to third base on a first pitch bunt by Keibert Ruiz toward third base. Now, put aside the wisdom of bunting. Actually, if you're going to bunt, that's not a bad spot in which to bunt. A close game with a bad batter in the batter's box. And Keibert's bunt was actually pretty good. Winker just seemingly got a bad jump off the bunt and then got tagged out. And like I said, it was not close at third base. That was hard to figure. Winker's not like ultra slow, and yet somehow he ended up getting tagged out by a mile in that spot. And then later in the game, and this again was related to Keibert Ruiz, although it was not his fault. So Keibert in this game, starting catcher, number 5 batter, 1 for 4, RBI single and a walk. He and the Nats, 1-run 10th, had a big hit, a game-tying 1-out RBI single to right field to tie the game at 6. He then got pinch run for by Nasim Nunez, whose only job on this team basically is to run the bases, right? That's basically all that he does. I know he occasionally gets inserted into the game to play some defense, but like by and large, he is here to run the bases as a Rule 5 draft pick. He ended up getting doubled up at third base on a line drive double play off the bat of the debuting at the major league level anyway for the Nats, Juan Yepez, to end the inning. That was some plate appearance by Yepez, but Nunez gets doubled up. And because the Nats end up losing these games, because the Nats end up losing this game, what happened with Winker and what happened with Nunez do stick with you.
All right, so the Nunez play, I'm not sure there's a whole lot else you can do. It's a line drive to a drawn-in second baseman. They have the infield in. He's going on contact. That's the call on the play. But I think even if he's not, I don't know there's enough time for him to react, to freeze and get back to the base in time. I think that was just an unfortunate situation. Yes, it's annoying when the guy who's on the team only for base running gets doubled up like that, but I'm not sure there's a whole lot that he could have done. That was a shame. It looked like Juan Yepez was about to be the hero against his former team in his first game with the Nationals. That was a really good quality at bat from him, and he just lined it to the wrong spot, unfortunately. The Winker play on the Ruiz bunt, I didn't love the bunt to begin with. Just happened the other night. People said, why not have Keibert Ruiz bunt? It's not something he normally does. You're asking for trouble, I think, when you do that. I agree that it wasn't a bad bunt. I thought it maybe came off the bat a little hot, a little closer to the mound than you'd want it to be. Watching the replay of it, Winker, no, he didn't get a great jump, but I didn't think it was like egregiously bad, at least from what I saw. I just don't think he's the best base runner to begin with. I didn't like bunting with that combination of players, the guy who's doing the bunting and the guy who's doing the base running. Of course, it costs them. Ultimately, you hope that a runner can read that and reach third base. Ideally, it would have been a faster runner to begin with, and maybe that makes a difference. I just didn't love that play in general, and I felt like those were the wrong guys to try to do that with. That's my opinion of it, at least.
Yeah, Winker does have some stolen bases, though. Like, he has enough speed to where he shouldn't get tagged out like that at third base. That's what, like, jumped out to me, is it wasn't close. Like, he was out by a good bit in that spot. Very frustrating to see that. I mean, again, you put up 5 runs over the first 3 innings. Sonny Gray was laboring so badly early in this game. Sonny Gray was having a good season, but man, did the heat seem to affect him. You talk about being drenched in perspiration. His shirt was like stuck to his body. It was like as soon as the game started. And the Nats did such a good job of getting to him. And there was some good stuff offensively. Luis Garcia Jr. had another good game on Friday evening. He is the Nats starting second baseman and number 6 batter, 4 for 5 with a solo homer, an RBI single, and 2 other singles. He did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base, but Garcia in the Nats 2-run first, a 2-out RBI single to right field for a 2-0 Nats lead on a 1-2 pitch. That was the inning in which he did get thrown out at second on the attempted steal, and that was for the 3rd out. But Garcia in the Nats 1-run third, a 2-out opposite field solo homer to left center field for a 5-0 Nats lead. Bottom of the 8th, Garcia went out first pitch single up the middle. Bottom of the 10th, a 1-out infield single up the middle. He then had a steal of second base on a double steal. Luis Garcia Jr., when he has played, has been locked in here lately.
So when he hits the homer in the bottom of the 3rd, at that point, you take his last 4 at-bats across 2 games. It's 3 homers and an RBI single. So, yeah, good stuff from him. And he talked about some work he's done with Darnell Coles. Yes, let's give Darnell Coles some credit for helping a guy find his power stroke. Yes, that's right, his power stroke. Luis Garcia credited Coles with helping him be a little shorter to the ball, getting on top of the ball, and he's driving the ball now with some authority in a way that we've seen at times in the past, but not consistently. And so that's a really good sign to see that from him. These are good quality at bats, good contact. The one out that he made was a line out to center that required a diving catch. So was this close to being 5 for 5 in the game? I'm seeing a lot of positive developments with Garcia, and I think the next question, and they won't face this for a little while, I don't think they have one coming up in this series, but maybe against the Mets next week. Does he get a start against a lefty? Because he's clearly getting the job done against right-handers. And at some point, if you want to find out once and for all, is he a part of this moving forward? I think you need to start him against a lefty and see how he does. Certainly when the other options are Ildemaro Vargas, why not? At this point, he's swinging the bat really well. Put him in there every day and see how it goes.
I don't know why you wouldn't, and we have talked about this before with Garcia. How is he ever going to get better against left-handed pitching if he never faces left-handed pitching? And to the point about Ildemaro Vargas, we've sung his praises, and justifiably so. He has cooled off. You look at his numbers, they have come down here in recent weeks. So it's not like Vargas is still doing his thing to where he's playing so well to where you're like, well, it makes sense to play him because he's been so productive. His numbers have calmed down. James Wood on Friday evening, starting left fielder, number 3 batter, 1 for 5 with a single and 2 strikeouts. Bottom of the 5th, a 1-out opposite field single through the left side of the infield on a 1-2 pitch. And yet another impressive instance of him hitting at the major league level. C.J. Abrams in this game, starting shortstop, number 1 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run double and 2 walks. Abrams in the Nats 2-run second, 1-out first pitch, 2-run double off the right field warning track for a 4-0 Nats lead. Bottom of the 7th, a 1-out walk. Bottom of the 11th, he drew a 2-out intentional walk.
Hi Nats fans, this is Tim Newmark, DC area composer, longtime Nationals fan, and proud composer of the Nats Chat podcast theme song. If you're enjoying the music and would like to hear more, check out timnewmark.com/streaming or just search for Tim Newmark wherever you listen to music. To find the rest of the song you're hearing now, search for the title Double in the Sun. Go Nats!
It was all really about Joey, trying to get Joey locked in. He's going to go down. He's got option. He'll go down and try to work on a swing and, just get him back. It's not like we saw we see in the end of Joey. The other guy's doing really well. Yepez has been hitting the ball really well, playing good first base. So we want to give him an opportunity to come up here and see what he can do.
And yeah, Juan Yepez. So he ended up being the corresponding roster move to Joey Meneses being optioned at AAA-Rochester. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having selected the contract of Yepez from Rochester. It is appropriate that the Nats face the Cardinals on Friday evening. Juan Yepez played for the Cardinals the last 2 seasons. The Nats signed him this past December to a minor league contract. Yepez on Friday evening, Nats starting first baseman, number 7 batter, 1 for 4 with a single and a walk. He did strike out twice, but the 2 instances of him getting on base, Yepez in the Nats 2-run second, leadoff single to left field on a 1-2 pitch. Bottom of the 8th, a 1-out walk to load the bases despite having been down in the count at 1.02. So as we await for Joey Gallo to get healthy, who do you see being the Nats' regular first baseman here? Obviously, it was Yepez as the first baseman on Friday evening, but you do have Jesse Winker as a first base option, Riley Adams, in theory, a first base option, Harold Ramirez, in theory, first base option. Who do you think gets the bulk of the starts at first base until Gallo's healthy?
The sense I get is that right now Yepez is the number 1 guy, not necessarily every day. What's interesting is not just this year at AAA, but across his career, he's got reverse splits. He hits righties much better than lefties. So even though he is a right-handed bat himself, I think he's going to start most games against righties and then maybe not necessarily play against lefties. And that's where Riley Adams could come into play. Got some work at first base at AAA. I think they're maybe finally at a point where they say, hey, this guy was hitting well. Let's put him in the lineup, whether it's as DH or at first base, especially against lefties who he has hit pretty well during his time in the big leagues, and see how it goes. Now, the defensive play he made in this game doesn't help his cause. of course, but they're really looking for ways to get his bat in the lineup more than anything. So I think you could see that. Again, they're facing all righties this weekend, so my guess is we're going to see primarily Yepez. Winker is still taking grounders there, but I feel like they are mostly content with the Winker-Ramirez lefty-righty DH platoon. The other thing that I'm waiting to see happen, and it kind of ties in with all this, is at some point, does Jacob Young get a day off or does Lane Thomas get a day off? And the domino effect of that is James Wood moving maybe to center field or even to right field, opening up left field for Winker, or I guess in theory Ramirez, or probably most likely Winker. I know Winker is kind of losing the playing time in the field because of James Wood, but I don't know that it's written in stone that Jacob Young and Lane Thomas have to play every single day. I think they could get away with giving those guys a day off here and there. And I think you have somebody in James Wood who can fill those positions. So why not do that? And that might actually open things up and have a domino effect of allowing you to play multiple of these other guys on a day here or there.
So I actually was going to ask you about this on the show. Jacob Young does now play every game. Like, he has become a staple in the Nats lineup, starting center fielder, number 9 batter. When he does finally rest, whenever that day comes, do you think we'll see James Wood in center? Or do you think James Wood will either stay in left or play right and Lane Thomas will be in center?
I think based on what their personnel is right now and knowing that he has played center field in the minors, I think they would put James Wood out there in center field. Now, I will say it's only a few games. There hasn't been a whole lot of action. I've not been super impressed with him in left field. He's looked a little uncomfortable at times out there, and based on what the reputation is. Now, I don't know if that makes a difference in the corner versus center, which he has played. The reputation is that he's very good out there, that he can play center field. This might just be an adjustment period for him in a new ballpark, playing, with the lights of a big league stadium, all those kinds of things, and reading balls off the bat with, 3 decks above you as opposed to just the 1 deck in the minor leagues. But so far, I haven't necessarily thought to myself, oh, that was a nice play by him in the outfield. But I think given what the personnel is, if Young had a day off, I think we would see James Wood in center field, at least for a day, and see how it goes, and then kind of adjust from there.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. So I very much hope that is the case. Your national starting pitcher for Friday evening was Patrick Corbin. He allowed 3 runs in 5 innings, gave up 6 hits, which were a double and 5 singles, issued 2 walks, recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 91 pitches, 56 strikes, 35 balls. One of the things that we have sung the praises of Corbin for during this time of him not being very good, been his consumption of innings. This was a game in which you could have used him to consume some more innings, especially with an early 5-0 lead, and unfortunately that did not happen.
It didn't. I'm going to give him a little bit of pass here in that it was such a hot and muggy night. I mean, the heat index at first pitch is 109. The actual temperature is 96. It was pretty disgusting out there. Now, everybody has to deal with it. Sonny Gray gave it everything he had as well. You would have loved for Corbin to be able to get at least into, if not through, the 6th, but he's already at 91 pitches after the 5th and kind of slowly devolving as that game went on. So I agree with the decision to pull him when they did. He was okay. Was not great. He was okay. A 5-run lead, you'd love to think that he could just lock that down, take care of business. Here's the crazy thing. 17 previous starts this year. The team's record in the games he pitched, 5-12. He has not won a game since May 10th in Boston. And here they go and give him a 5-run lead, and he can't ultimately get the win. Now, it's not entirely on him. A bunch of things happened after he departed the game, but he did give up the 3 runs. He didn't get past the 5th. Could have put himself in a little bit better position to try to emerge with the win and did not. We've talked about this with Josiah Gray now on the 60-day IL, Cade Cavalli having to restart his rehab again. Corbin is here to stay, at least for a while. All that talk we had over and over again about, well, could this be his last start? Maybe he's on thin ice. You got to put that on the back burner now. He is part of the rotation until somebody else comes along who is healthy, and so he's going to have to give them a chance to win. I guess he did give him a chance to win this game. You would have liked for him to be just a little bit better, though.
It is remarkable how things have broken in the favor of Corbin in terms of him staying in the rotation. When you think about where we are with Josiah Gray and Cade Cavalli and Trevor Williams and something like, Jackson Rutledge hasn't emerged enough to where he's knocking on the door to be summoned to the majors. Like, everything has broken in the favor of Patrick Corbin to stay in the rotation. It is remarkable for sure. One thing to note about the Cardinals, and we did see this in this game. So the Cardinals statistically have one of the best bullpens in the majors this season. And we saw the Cardinals bullpen, for the most part, do a very good job in this game. 5 Cardinals relievers ultimately allowed 1 run unearned in 6 innings. Like I said, the Nats got to Sonny Gray, who has had a good season, so I give the Nats credit for that. But beyond that, you are facing a team in the Cardinals with a good bullpen. It stands out because the Nats in recent weeks have faced some teams with some not so good bullpens. The Mets bullpen has been a mess so far this season. Be interesting to see if the Nats can get to this Cardinals bullpen in this series. But again, statistically speaking, the Cardinals do have one of the better bullpens in the majors. So 3 games left in this 4-game series against the Cardinals. So the rest of these games are afternoon games. Game 2 of this series Saturday afternoon at 4:05, and Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by the DC Grays. DC Grays Baseball, an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of DC. The Grays' 2024 season now is underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, check out dcgrays.com. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our website. We certainly invite you to do that, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
This is a player, 23 at-bats in, early in your career, already has a nickname.
Yeah.
Joey 4 Bags. I think I got that right. Heard it a few times.
That's his nickname now.